Okay, so we are good to go. So good evening, everyone. I am Ankit Goyal, President of Coach PEC Chapter and the Core Committee member of PEC ACM Student Chapter. On the behalf of our entire team, I would like to wish each and every one of you a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. So today, I welcome you all to our very first session of the semester, Initium Novum, Navigating Off-Campus Placements. Off-campus placements are a job selection process that appoints zero involvement of college and engages a unique methodology of shortlisting procedure. Off-campus opportunities have really evolved a lot over the past few years, and most of the top tech companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Walmart, and Flipkart roll out amazing off-campus opportunities each year, which help you a lot in landing your dream job. But due to the lack of knowledge about how off campus works, most of us are bothered by questions like where to apply for these opportunities, what does their general hiring procedure looks like, how should we build our resume, what are companies' expectations from us, and many more. So today we will get most of our questions answered. So now we have with us someone who has vast experience with off campus placements. He was a summer analyst at Goldman Sachs and will be joining Goldman Sachs as a full time employee this year. He's also the Google DSC lead and the CodeChef chapter president at the Ahmedabad University. He is rated 5-star at CodeChef and is an expert at code forces. He has delivered over 10 sessions at various colleges, including a podcast at Hacker Earth. And last but not the least, he's a very good friend of mine and has always motivated and inspired me a lot by all the amazing work that he does. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome our speaker of the session, Yashraj Kakkad. Yashraj, over to you, man.
Yes, thank you so much, Ankit, for having me. So, I'll just not say anything. I'll just directly jump to the session in the
Yeah,
interest of time.
yeah, right.
So, I'm just activating the poll. I know the answer to this one. I'm just going to keep it on for 30 seconds, just to see if there is someone not from PEC. But yeah, whatever, guys. Even PEC folks also, please fill the answer. Okay, someone is here from NSIT. Interesting. Okay, IPS DAVV Indoor. I've not even heard of that place. Okay, interesting. Banaras Hindu University, okay. IIT Bombay, okay. IIT Chandigarh, okay.
So basically, IIT Chandigarh is another name for PEC. People like to call it IIT
Oh,
Chandigarh.
okay.
Yeah.
I was
So,
thinking, I was just in my head thinking that, okay, is this an IIT? But okay, I got it.
no, yeah, yeah.
Get your mute things.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, this is good enough, guys. Let's go to the next question in the interest of time. Which year are you from? This one is important for me. Okay, as expected, most of you are from first year. Okay. So over 95% of our crowd, 90, yeah, around 90 to 95% of our crowd is from first and second year. And if someone is from second year right now, he might be in, just entering their fourth semester. Okay. Okay, this also works. And I'm just going to the next question, guys. Sorry if you could not answer this, but I got an idea. Yeah, if you could go to any company in the world, which one would you pick? Again, I just wanted it to be an icebreaker, but in the interest of time, we'll just also go through this one fatafat. Of course, the answer has to be Google for most of you. Okay, someone has entered Goldman Sachs. Yeah, it's a nice place. Own company. Sivo. Oh, someone follows Kunal Kushwaha, I guess. Shri Ram Pistons. Any startup. Stark Industries. Barabar. Cool, guys. This was creative. We probably have a very interesting crowd here today. This helps, guys. Thank you so much. And I'll stop sharing and go to the slides. This is it's why is the section of Windows blank? Okay, like this is probably because I'm having two meets that
What's the issue, Yashraj?
I cannot see Windows, any window when I enter share option, when I choose the share option. Maybe let me just okay, let me try something else. Um, the tabs are working, but I will okay, I will just go to the full screen option at that point of time and
Yeah.
okay. Okay, this should work. This should be visible, I guess, at the first place, and I'll do the same for the second.
Yeah, bro, it is. It is visible.
Like, is it on full screen, both the places?
It's not on full screen. But I think that's fine. Even if yeah, now
works?
it is working. It is in full screen now.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, both the places looks good. Okay, let's get started. So today's agenda is very simple. How do you get hired off campus? What are the ways? How do you prepare for each of the ways? And how do you not miss out on opportunities? Let's just get into the content. So why is off campus different from on campus? So you guys are more fortunate than me that you are at a very nice institute which has a very good legacy, and I'm very sure a lot of great amazing companies come to your place. But like off campus, like the game of off campus is very very different, and there are some reasons for that. So when companies come to a college like yours, for example, they come probably with they spend a lot of money, right, to conduct their outreach process, to go to colleges. They have done their homework, like they've spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources. So essentially they are coming to get you guys. So they probably would have a rough idea of the headcount that from these 5 campuses we want to take, say, 20 people or something like that. So in a way they are coming to you, so they will probably make a hire just to justify their own expenditure. And in the case of off campus, what typically happens is that students have to go to companies, and for many companies the situation is such that off campus is meant for the leftover seats, like agar jagah bachi to off campus thoda hire kar lenge. And it typically happens very very late as well. And sometimes uh, like the opening would just be there, like you will fill like 100 applications and you might hear back from say 5 or 10 of them, and that is because many companies don't have the required capacity or resources to look at so many applications. Like uh, so the game is very different. And like although it might seem that off campus is a very vast ground, like you might see on LinkedIn a lot of people getting amazing opportunities on campus, while some people do get that, that the game is much more difficult than what it is on campus. And sometimes the online assessment cutoffs are also very high because of the fact that the crowd is larger, and also because of the fact that a lot of cheating happens. By the way, the slides are going to be full of memes, a lot of memes. I think there are around 20 memes in the slides, probably more memes than the content. And most memes are such that they aim to give you some specific message. So I hope you find it interesting. So Goldman Sachs, for example, receives around 1 lakh applications in every cycle of its engineering campus hiring program. Like I was in their November 2020, November 2020 cycle, where I think there were 1,20,000 applications, and they selected probably less than 100 of them, like 40 interns and 20 full timers, roughly. So you can see it's like around 0.1% of the crowd. And similar stories for Google. Google, I think, receives more than 1.5 lakh applications when they give their off-campus opening. And I don't know the exact number, but I don't think they would be hiring like more than 100 or 200 people off campus. So the competition is way higher. And as I said, a lot of companies don't really have the resources to deal with so many applications. So sometimes they will not just reply. Like, pretty sure, like I don't know. Let's not take names of companies here, but there are companies which will not bother to reply when you, no matter how many times you apply to their openings. So, just a kind note, different companies have very, very different processes of hiring, and this is true, especially off campus. Um, Companies experiment, companies have different beliefs, they have different ideologies about things. Some say that DSA is amazing, like they will only ask DSA across the process. Some companies will say DSA is bullshit. Like DSA is bullshit is actually a line I've heard from a startup founder where I was interviewing. Um, so it's very different at different companies, and there is no one size fits all answer. There is a lot of variation in terms of difficulty as well. um, a lot of companies ask core computer science questions in very, very good detail. Some companies just ask them for formality, like they will ask very simple questions: what is paging, what is segmentation. Some companies will ask you to go, like they will ask very, very practical questions in those areas. And like probably there is no structured standardized way of preparing for these tests. Unfortunately, like you probably have, you cannot really say that you're prepared. For example, some companies are also asking system design to freshers, and I've seen that in many young startups. Like I think Tachyon has recently started asking system design questions. So like it's a mess. And in a way you can say that the process is designed to minimize false positives, and this is especially true for large companies, that because there are more good candidates than their seats. So they are okay if some good candidate is rejected, but they are not really okay if some bad candidate is selected. So that is probably the reason why some online assessment rounds are unrealistically difficult, because they are really okay with some bright candidates who don't really have practice data structures and algorithms of competitive programming to get selected. But they don't really want any potentially bad hire. Like that is probably the mindset there is. And this is a line which I read from some recruiters post itself, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So also, different companies have a very different timelines of hiring. Goldman Sachs typically hires twice a year. Once the opening comes around July, August. The second time it comes around December, Jan. Both the processes last around 3 or 4 months. Google, I'm not sure. This time they had an opening around September or October. Uh, Microsoft will probably have an opening very soon. Disha will have an opening very soon. Many startups will hire in the end. Like I have my senior friends who got selected in really amazing startups which are unicorns right now. CoinDCX, for example, Smallcase, for example. They got their job in hand at around June. So like you probably have to keep fighting till the end, especially if you don't have a job you're satisfied with. So they got their offer in June, and they probably started in July, August. Like that's how short notice it was. So yeah, there is a lot of role of luck in the process, unfortunately. And probably the only thing I can tell you is that maybe your focus should be just on inputs and not on outputs, because the journey is actually very lonely and depressing. So the first obvious way we'll talk about is the traditional off-campus openings, which is the standard way to get hired in almost every company out there. Um, so what really happens is that most companies will put up a job opening on their careers page, like Goldman Sachs, Google, Microsoft. I think Cisco has a dedicated jobs portal. Every company out there pretty much is going to have an opening. You fill that, and you might hear back, you might not hear back. There will be a set of typical rounds. Like you probably know about this, but I have just kept it for formality. Um, so for many companies, there is a resume or profile filtering. They might look at your college. A lot of companies are very sensitive about college. They probably will not do a lot of research about it. They might look at if your college is in near top 50 rankings, for example, or they might just look at if it's an IIT, triple IT, NIT, something like that. They might have their own list of target colleges which they only consider. A lot of like college is often a major filter, and if your college is not in their radar, you might not hear back, even in off campus. Some companies have CGPA. We talked about it in the beginning of the session when someone asked the question. Um, this is not that prevalent. Most companies will not really care as long as you don't have any backlogs. But some companies do have CGPA cutoffs. Cisco's is the example I talked about. Like for the good roles at Cisco, good as in like the software engineering role, the network engineering role, etc. Their cutoff is around 8.5 on 10. But most companies really don't care, to be honest. Like they might have a criteria that like they might give some points if you have a good CGPA, but it probably will not be a barrier. You might have heard of this term called applicant tracking system. So most companies have some systems in place designed to automatically filter resumes. I've also read of people like who are responsible for scanning and selecting resumes. Like they probably take 10 or 15 seconds to just look at a resume. If it looks good, it is swiped right, like it is taken for further consideration. If not, it is swiped left or not considered. So these systems also exist, and they have to do it because not every company has the bandwidth to handle thousands or lakhs of applications. They just don't have the time, and most companies are really okay with not having the best candidate because probably there is no way to find out the best candidate in a short time span. Like they want processes with scale. Like they would want to also have time for other things which they have to do. So these heuristic based systems exist, and they will be there at least for the foreseeable future. If you are lucky, you will receive an online assessment link. uh, One thing which I should have mentioned here is that sometimes referrals also work. I have not really seen referrals working very much for fresher hiring because of the way people have been distributing referrals on LinkedIn. But at some companies, referrals do help. Like, if you are active on LinkedIn, you might have seen that Browser Stack very recently had started hiring for 6-month interns for the 2022 batch, and that hiring was only through referrals. So people who got referred, like there was no job opening at all. People who got referred, I think, directly got interviews. I'm not sure about the latter part, but I saw my friends getting interviews there from referrals, so it did help there. And Browser Stack is actually an amazing place to go to. It's a recent unicorn. The stipend is also amazing. The work I have heard is also very good. So it's a great company. It's true for many other places that if you have a referral, you get in. But for largely for multinational companies, I don't think it really works that way. Like Goldman Sachs probably has stopped the referral system for fresher hiring for the engineering campus hiring program. Like there is no way to get a referral at all because they don't have that system. Um, so it depends, but for probably for smaller companies it works better, but for most large companies it doesn't really. But you never know unless you like there is no probably there's no way to figure out whether or not a referral will help you, so it's always best to try and get one. um, for online assessments, typically at most of the places there are coding questions, data structures and algorithms, some story, some questions, solve them in a given time constraint. There'll be some test cases, and you might have partial or full grading. Like it really depends on the company. A lot of companies also now ask objective questions, which are some questions maybe asking core computer science fundamentals, operating systems, networks, databases, basic programming questions, sometimes aptitude questions. It depends. Like it really depends on what the company believes is right for them. uh, Capture the flag questions, like this is something very like I have started seeing in companies like Kojak, that for their security engineering role they had some very interesting capture the flag questions, where they would start a server for you. You have to SSH into that server. You have to do some tasks which they ask you to do. You might have to search for some flag which is hidden in somewhere. Like they might give you some code, they might give you some program, they might for one question they used some Docker instance to, like they gave everyone access to some Docker instance where partially some commands were working, some commands were not working. You have to find out the flag. Some very very interesting questions which tested some of the skills they require for the job. Like it was for a security engineering role, so probably these kind of questions made a lot of sense there. A lot of companies give you take home assignments. I think this is especially true for many startups, where they might ask you to design something, they might ask you to code some prototype. Really depends, but these things are there. uh, then if you are lucky and smart, so then you will probably be invited to the next stage where you will be grilled through some interviews. It can be one, it can be two, it can be three. I've heard some companies go up to 5 to 8 interviews as well. So interviews might again have coding questions. They might ask you directly about some computer science fundamentals, which might be relevant to their day-to-day jobs. A lot of companies will, like large companies especially, will ask very generic questions because they don't know what you're going to work on. They have a lot of teams, so some standard questions on OOP, DBMS, OS networks, things like that. If they're hiring for a very specific role, the questions will be related to that role. Obviously, if you're being hired for a for a backend engineer, they might ask you what is the difference between REST and GraphQL, or some other technical questions. If they are working on the cloud side, they might ask you something about AWS. For front end, it really depends. Like, it depends on what your resume says and what they are looking for. Uh, there might be a discussion on your resume, your projects, your previous internships. A lot of recruiters are interested in your previous internships because it's a proof of work. Open source, as someone was asking, like how does it help? Like, this is where it really helps, because it's also a very very strong proof of work that you are able to work on a code base, like a large code base, an active code base. You are able to understand the code which is there and give a meaningful contribution to that, and that in a way resembles the kind of work you are expected to do in companies. So open source for that reason acts as a very very major flag, a green flag for candidates. And they might also ask about non-technical aspects, some culture fits, behavior, like they might check how fit you are with their culture. I think Amazon is very sensitive about this. A lot of startups are very sensitive about this, that you should be fitting their culture code. Like, they might have a separate round for this, they might not, it really depends. But this is pretty much the essence of most standard off campus hiring processes, that you might have a combination of one or more of these. And like like as you can see, there is a lot of objectivity here. Like, you might make it, you might not make it, but like that is the reason why it is probably advised to apply to as many places as possible, because um, to probabilistically improve your chances of making to a good place. Like, if you apply to 100 places, there's a chance that you hear back from at least 10, and at, out of 10 you'll probably clear at least one. So the bottom line is to keep applying, and to not marry to a company because you don't know. Like, like if you interview at Google today, and if you make it, it's possible that if you had given the an interview tomorrow to some different interview, you might not have made it. There's a lot of randomness there, and it is going to be there. So just keep applying. How do you prepare for DSA? This probably deserves a separate session in itself, but let's maybe try to make it quick. um, so there are two options there, like that you learn from an academic course, maybe at your university, or through a MOOC course. Like, MIT has an amazing course called Introduction to Algorithms, which is beautiful. Like, the instructors are amazing, and the kind of depth they provide you, it is really helpful. Or if you don't like, there is another option that you learn from some placement oriented material. You buy some course from Coding Ninjas, Coding Blogs, things, some place like that, or Geeks for Geeks, and you prepare from that. Like, I don't have any strong comments here. I really believe that you should learn the theoretical part of it, but the most important is that you practice a lot of questions, because that is what you are going to do there. And but I think learning from a proper course is important, because you are going to have a healthy discussion with the interviewer about everything, and you will have a very strong clarity about a lot of concepts. Like, you might be able to clear an online assessment without having a very good understanding, like how why is the time complexity of binary search or of log. And for example, you might get along that, uh, like, you might not have to worry too much about that. But like, interviews often ask fundamental questions, and that is where some proper course helps. Like, that, this is my opinion, please take it with a pinch of salt, do what works for you, but this is what worked for me. And I think it's quite important that you get some proper formal education, and then you practice a lot of questions. Where do you practice? Lead code, pretty sure. Lead code, interview bit, Geeks for Geeks, you might have heard of these places. HackerRank. There is this interesting place called Binary Search, which is a place where you can collaborate with your friends and create room, collaborate with friends, do a bunch of questions together in a competitive fashion. I think it's a beautiful place. It has a lot of questions, and the website is entirely free. And the questions are actually good. Like, a lot of lead code premium questions are available on Binary Search for free. So it's a great place. I did a lot of practice there, and I got a lot of benefit from it. um, how much do you think is enough? uh, there is no one fit answer to this, as you would have realized from the previous conversation. But like there are people who claim that, I think I'll not name the YouTubers, who give their sheets, which are very nicely crafted. I think they are very helpful. Like, they helped me in my interviews as well to prepare, because a lot of companies are lazy, right? A lot of companies are lazy, especially some small companies are actually very lazy. Like, they don't really, there are companies which don't really invest a lot of time in their hiring processes. So they were just going to emulate what the other companies are doing, like ask DSA. And Then they themselves will search on Geeks for Geeks for some standard questions, and they will ask you that questions, or they might repeat the previous Kirka questions. So if you do the standard set of questions, there is a very high probability that um, you will encounter the same question or the similar questions. People have seen same questions. I know it's very, it doesn't sound fair, but that is how life is, and that is how it is. So the goal is to get a lot of variety of questions and a lot of standard conventional questions as much as possible, because nobody really, not many people have the time to invent new questions all the time. A very popular question which is asked is that, is competitive programming needed? The answer is yes and no. It depends on the company. Some companies ask very difficult questions. Some companies don't really ask very difficult questions. Like for DSA, like every company has a very different hiring bar, a very different criteria. I think Uber asks very difficult questions, and you are better off doing competitive programming. Probably similar for Google. No wonder why a lot of candidate masters and masters you will find like are in Google right now. Um, Coordination, I think, asks very difficult questions. Media.net and Direct Group in general will mention that you should have done some competitive programming. Only then you should apply. So at those places, it definitely matters. But apart from that, if you ask in general, is competitive programming a good investment of time? Probably not, in my opinion, because only a handful of companies are very strict about CP, and you should definitely not do CP at the cost of DSA, because a lot of standard topics, like a very simple topic which is linked lists, you will never see that on code forces, but you are going to definitely get a, like, not definitely, but there is a very good probability that you have a question on linked list, say, in your interview. So DSA comes first. Like probably preparing from standard platforms is a much better idea. And say if you really enjoy CP and if you have dedicated 6 months to invest in that, definitely go for it. Otherwise, probably your time is better spent in doing other things. So how do you prepare for computer science fundamentals? A lot of students, I think, are not very strong with this part, because uh, like it's quite neglected in many companies also. So it's not the students fault completely, but I think it is very important to understand these core subjects, not just for the sake of clearing the interview, but also for the sake of performing on the job. One advantage which I think I had was that I was good with these subjects. At least that's what I feel for myself, and that really helped me in my internship. And I cleared the I cleared the internship process, and I got a PPO. So what really helped me on my job was also these skills. That, and I think I personally felt that people should work more on this, because a lot of people were not really are not really clear with these fundamentals. Like they would not um, know what, they would not understand what process management is in operating systems. So I think it is like you'll probably lag on the job or on the internship if you are not aware of these fundamentals. Most people do catch up, but I think it is like you're not just preparing for interviews, right? You're preparing to be a good software engineer or machine learning engineer, or some engineer, right? So please try to invest some time in this if possible. And I hope, like, at least for startups, it will definitely help you a lot. So my recommendation is that when the subject appears in your college, just do it really well. Like if you are not comfortable with your professor, just study with the book side by side, do something like that, because these are, like, this is the heart of computer science, right? These 5 6 subjects. So you probably cannot just digest them in one sitting, in 2 months, in 3 months. Like these take time, these take a lot of practice. Like you might read fatafat that, okay, this is a process, what is a process, what is a thread, what is process management, what is process scheduling. But you really have to spend some time, do some experimentation to let those ideas sink in. uh, you might just read up that, okay, this is what a database is, this is what indexes are, this is how a join works. But unless you really play with the queries, you will not really understand what is going on, things like that. So I would recommend that spend some time here, and it will pay off in the long run. Some classic books, if you are comfortable with books, like for example, for operating systems, the book by Galvin is really famous. For networks, I think Tannenbaum is very famous. So maybe just pick some standard book, do the exercises there, do some practical work. Online courses, obviously. Placement oriented material is available for this also. a lot of YouTubers you might have seen are giving out summary sheets. I'm not sure how effective they are because I've not used them myself, but a lot of people have claimed that they are really, really helpful. So I think Riddhi Datta is one YouTuber who gives out sheets, cheat sheets or revision sheets. You might be able to like there are a lot of resources. Like it's just one Google search away. But again, like I would say that investment here pays off. So how do you not miss out on opportunities? Off campus में ऐसा कोई like there is no one place right which um, updates you with all the opportunities. Like you have to be on your toes, and sometimes you have to be quick. Like for browser stack, when the employees said that they are hiring, within a few hours they might have been they will probably flooded with messages. So people who applied early probably got an advantage. So you have to be on your toes. um, on LinkedIn there is a job section. You should use the right filters in the job section, the experience filter, the location filter if you have any preferences, things like that. And you probably should also create a job alert where you can just ask LinkedIn to send you an email with the new opportunities every day, something like that, and you should actively apply there. uh, but at the same time you will see that many openings actually appear on your feed. Like some team at Amazon might be hiring for some people, things like that. Many startups they don't really leverage the job section as much as they do leverage the feed, and they probably have their own careers page. So it is possible that their job is not even listed on LinkedIn in the job section, but it appears in your feed. So do keep an eye on your feed, connect to the right people, and like hopefully you will see it on your feed. Like most job offers get a lot of engagement, so it is very likely that you will see it on your feed. If you have a set of target companies in your mind, it is recommended that you check their career pages roughly around the time they hire. If you know Goldman Sachs hires twice a year, like you can just put a check on their engineering campus hiring program page, which is the same. Like they don't really change that place every year. Like the URL is the same. You will know like when is the time to apply there, so you don't just miss out on that. There are a lot of job portals apart from LinkedIn which have opportunities which are sometimes not mentioned on LinkedIn at all. AngelList, I think, is a beautiful example, especially for startups. Like if you really want to get hired in good startups with great work, AngelList is an amazing place. Um, they require you to add a note when you apply, and if you add a proper note, if you've done your research on the company and if your profile is good, most likely you will hear back. Like the conversion ratio in my and my friend's opinion is amazing at AngelList, and I think it's an underrated place. Like a lot of startups are there, have their openings on Angel, but um like I don't think people leverage it as much. So if you do, you are at an advantage. You will get really amazing opportunities. Cutshot, Instahire, and Indeed are also very nice places. I think Cutshot also has some really amazing openings. um Instahire and Indeed, I'm not very experienced with those, but people use it. I think Instahire is more applicable for experienced people. I'm not sure about it, but these are also like these also have a lot of opportunities. um a very smart way to not miss out is also to follow people who aggregate opportunities. Arsh Koel, if you are active on LinkedIn, you probably must have heard of this person. Like, he posts a ton of opportunities, and if you just follow him, his YouTube channel or his LinkedIn, you are like you probably have. matlab, You most likely you will not miss out on any major opportunity at least. Mentro is an app which is created by Jaideep Prasad, I guess, and that app also houses a lot of opportunities. So these are nice places to keep yourself updated. I think Kushal Vijay is another person. I'm not sure if he still posts opportunities, but yeah, you can check him out as well. So, but like a major downside of these opportunities posted by them is that because they have a lot of followers, them posting alone means that a lot of people would apply to that. So there is a lot of competition in their postings. So, but yeah, like everyone at least gets a fair chance to apply. So that's one positive side. Um, this was about the standard process. So the next section talks about how do you get hired through hackathons. And I'll just take a 30-second break because I need to sip in some water. So since there are two meet links, what we can do is, if you have any questions which you have right now, you can just put it in that Slido link, because that would help. Like, you can also vote on some question which you think is good. So we'll just have a centralized place for both the URLs. And I see some questions there already, so please use that. So, particularly this year, a lot of companies hire through hackathons, and that is probably amazing because companies are channelizing different means of hiring, and it gives an opportunity to people having a very different skill set to stand a chance to go to some really amazing places which they might have not otherwise, because उनसे DS नहीं होता. So how do you prepare for these hackathons? This again is something which deserves a separate talk in itself. There are people who have won amazing hackathons. Like, I know of people who have like won 10 hackathons, 15 hackathons. So I think winning hackathons is about going to more hackathons. Um, the more hackathons you go to, the more you understand what it takes to win a hackathon. It's not just about closing your eyes and coding 24 into 7. It's about finding a good idea. It's about pitching. It's about having the right team. It's about having a core set of skills uh, which can help you win. Like if you are well versed with some hot topics, you have a very good chance of winning. For example, if you're well versed with blockchain and you present some idea, and you probably have an edge against someone who is just like, who does not really have these fancy skills, because these skills tend to attract a lot of attention. So uh, like even machine learning, like if you know machine learning, you can like create some really fancy ideas, effective ideas, helpful ideas, and these stand out like as compared to someone who had just have just created a CRUD application. So the more hackathons you go to, the more you realize what you lack, and the more you can improve. So you don't like, if you are really interested, you don't just have to go to uh, a hiring challenge. Like, you can go to college hackathons, you can go to MLH hackathons. These are amazing places to build your skills, and even having these achievements on your resume helps you stand out. Like, if you are someone who has won 5 hackathons, the recruiter will know that you are a strong candidate. So also side projects help. Like, if you know backend development, you can be a part of the team where there is a complementary front-end developer, and you both can collaborate. You can go to a hackathon. You can just get going. So side projects do help a lot, because like that is when you learn things by giving them their own time, right? Like, hackathons often have a time constraint. You don't really follow the best practices all the time. You don't really have the time to learn things in depth during a hackathon, and that is something you can compensate for with your side projects. What really happens with hackathons is that the competition is very less. Like, for coding rounds, you'll have tens of thousands of people. The number here is often in hundreds, at max 2-3 thousand is what I've seen. And even in a lot of them, many people don't really submit, because a lot of people give up. A lot of people lose track, especially in long hackathons. Like, if there is a hackathon lasting 3 weeks, there might be 6,000 participants, because the company has done their publicity, but not many of them are going to submit. So the competition is very less. It's an amazing opportunity to get noticed. You are not probably going to see such less competition in, if they had rolled out a job application form, but the number of opportunities at the same time are very less. um, like, definitely not enough as compared to the traditional openings. So, and a lot of companies are also very confused about whether or not to hire. I think when Zeta Hacks was organized this year, they themselves were not sure if they want to hire through this channel. They did the hackathon, but eventually they picked up no one. Same for, I think, TVS Credit. When they announced their hiring challenge this year, they just rolled out an interest take form to see if someone would be interested in a carrier, and I'm not really sure what they did with the winners. But they, many companies are not 100% sure whether or not to hire with this route. I think Credit Suisse conducts a very major hackathon every year, which they use for hiring. So teams play a major role in hackathons. As I said, you need a team which understands you. You need a team which complements your skills. You cannot form a team with 5 backend developers. You often UI UX plays a major role in hackathons. You need someone who has a very good command on front end, and front end takes a lot of time as well to build. So you probably need more than one developer. So you have to find a very smart team. You have to find a very sharp team, and you need people with diverse skills. So again, how do you not miss out on opportunities here? One place to go to is Hacker Earth. Hacker Earth houses a lot of challenges, especially from very large companies. Hacker Earth has partnered with a lot of companies, and they have a lot of opportunities. They have opportunities across experience levels, and they have also have them for freshers. Dare to Compete is a place which has gained a lot of popularity this year, I think. Their platform is very robust. It's um it's very nice. It's very it has a very clean interface. It has what do you say, like it has a lot of features actually, and I think it's amazing to like I think it's a delight for even for participants to participate in these hackathons which are conducted through Dare to Compete. So do check these two places out. They house a ton of opportunities. It's like so you probably will get a lot of benefit. These are some examples of hackathons which are recently conducted. In from which top companies hired. I think American Express, Code Street, Flipkart, Grid, Just Pay hiring challenge. Um, so, but like the competition is often very stiff. Like we participated in Code Street, but I think they selected only like 7 or 8 teams, and we were not a part of it. So, like sometimes companies have very strict criteria um, in these hackathons as well. But nevertheless, I think it's a great opportunity. So, did I miss a point? What's- What are the unconventional ways? So, how do you stand out in the ocean of applicants? So, there is this quote by Naval Ravikant, and it really resonates with me. The best jobs are neither decreed nor degreed. They are creative expressions of continuous learners in free markets. In very simple words, the the best jobs for people don't really appear on job portals. Is what he's trying to say. Um, I don't really want to go into philosophy at this point, but what it is like what I'm trying to hint at is that it is possible to create your own job. Say you are very well versed with blockchain, and you want to work at Polygon, so you can just maybe have some proof of work or some hackathon. Like you can have some project which can have some appeal to the engineers at Polygon, and you directly reach out to them saying that, hey, I built this something, and I think you might want to pay attention to it. And if you really like my work, can you please consider giving me a job or an internship? Or you can go to a hackathon which is sponsored by Polygon, and you can tell them that you can create something really amazing, and you can use your pitch very wisely to pitch your own self that I can be a great fit for your job. This is actually something which one of my friends did, by the way. Or you can be a very good infrastructure engineer, and you can reach out to startups that, hey, I want to join your infrastructure team, and I have these skills, I've done this internship, and there are very good chances that you get hired. This again is a story of one of my friends who got in to a very good company. So I have seen this happening. I've seen people putting tweets that, hey, I want to, hey, like they'll just tag the CEO of the company and, hey, I want to get hired at this place. I've seen people writing cold emails to companies with very strong cold emails with very strong proof of work that I have done this and I think I can be a great fit for this. And what really happens is that this really applies to early stage startups, young startups, that even if there will not be a job opening listed, the person may get hired. So what really works, like there are these two links. Maybe we can open them in the end. So you might have seen this if you're active on LinkedIn. This person called Avkash Shah, he wanted to do a design internship, I think, at Cred, and he created a very amazing creative video for as his application, and he posted it on LinkedIn. It got over 80,000 likes. Kunal Shah himself noticed it. A lot of people from different companies noticed it. He got a bunch of offers, not just from Cred. He was covered on Mint India, things like that. So, like a very smart move can give you crazy returns. So, he currently works at Cred, by the way. So what really works probably here is that you have a specialization. um, it's very easy if you have a specialization, if you have a bunch of marketable skills, back-end development, full stack development, front-end development, machine learning, something, and some proof of work which really goes well with the kind of um, things the company does. So that gives you a very strong proposition of getting noticed. So um, I know it sounds really abstract because there is no well-defined procedure to it, but people have landed really amazing roles at at um, at some very good companies. And the reason why this is awesome is because you are creating your own job for yourself. So you are not really fitting in a job description. You are getting an opportunity to go to your area of specialization. Like if you, for example, join a large company, you don't know the kind of work you'll have to do. It's um, freshers most of the time don't really get a say in the kind of work they will be landing to in these companies. So, but when you go this way, you create your own job. Um, so yeah, this was all about what I wanted to say here, and this is a very interesting book which I would recommend to everyone. It has tons of examples for networking and job search. I have read it. It's very helpful. I wanted to try some of these things, but I got a PPO before I could start these things. But uh, this is probably an amazing way to get noticed, and I would recommend that some of you try it out. So here is some general advice. LinkedIn is your best friend. LinkedIn houses a bunch of opportunities. Try to build, first, try to look out, like be very active, talk to people, check your feed, follow the right people, look at the jobs, just be very, very proactive because you never know what works. Like Goldman Sachs was the first company I applied to. I probably must have applied to more than 100 companies after that for my internship. And when my interview was going on, I was interviewing with a couple more as well. Um, the only way you have is to apply to as many places as possible to increase your odds of making somewhere. It's simple probability. Um, what really I have seen people getting a benefit from is having a mastermind circle. What I mean by a mastermind circle is that you have a bunch of friends who are equally enthusiastic as you about getting a job off campus, and you guys work together. And because what really happens is that navigating off campus is very challenging, and having a support group really helps a lot. What I have seen particularly is that the community of Indian competitive programmers, uh, a lot of them are very well connected. If you are a master on code forces, you probably would have friends, five other friends who are masters from different colleges. So I have seen my one of my senior friends who's in Google right now, one of my colleagues who was interning with us at Goldman Sachs, he is going to join Google. They had very, very strong communities who helped each other through thick and thin. Most of them were from tier three colleges. So they could help each other get referrals very easily. They knew which recruiter to reach out to, how to reach out to, because they had a very strong bond with each other. They also they had very nice noticeable profiles, right? Like 6 stars on Code Chef, Master on Code Forces. These are very attractive a lot of times for recruiters. So these mastermind groups, I have seen that people get four, five opportunities off campus at the same time, where while most others are struggling to get even one. So this is very powerful. Like if you cannot reach, like I'm not saying that you go and hunt for a network, but having two, three friends who are motivated really helps you, not just for opportunities, but also to keep you in check. You can take each other's mock interviews. You can take you can help each other with material. You can life is much easier when you have company. Like you are the average of five people you spend your time with, and I have seen that having the kind of right environment is often really what most people need. Like, it's not like people are lazy; it's just that they are not in the right environment. And having a good company is I think one of the key components to having the right environment. And this is the probably the reason why colleges have legacy. Like you might have heard of that college where a lot of people crack opportunities on campus as well as off campus, and the seniors ensure that the juniors don't miss out. So like although the college might not really have amazing education, but the people are at amazing places, and this is because of the mastermind circle that they have. Finding an internship is easier than finding a job. A lot of startups will not want to risk. giving full-time offers to freshers directly because they are on a strict budget, but they are okay with giving an internship. So because probably at the cost of one full-timer, they can hire three interns. So this is what many companies do, and you should be okay with finding an internship. You should definitely do a summer internship if you get an opportunity. If your college allows for a 6 month internship, I think it does in your sixth semester. That is also a great opportunity to get a full time job. It's a way lesser risk for companies, and that is why internships exist in the first place, to minimize risk. um, Present yourself really well. Off campus mein presentation matters a lot, branding matters a lot. This is where again internships and open source also comes. If you have done some good contributions, you just need a good tag with your profile, because people are lazy. People don't have the time to evaluate people. Also, they probably don't know how to evaluate people, but people have to hire. So tags help. Validation, some form of validation helps. It can be a great college, it can be a great internship, it can be open source, it can be some hackathons which have won, anything which is a very strong proof that you are a good potential hire. So your LinkedIn has to be up to date, your resume has to be charming, it has to be amazing, no scope for error. You should have, like, if you are doing some development work, you should have a stellar profile, well maintained, proper documentation, uh, deployed versions of the web apps in case you're building web apps, Android apps, things like that. Your portfolio website, if any, it should look neat. I think someone very recently, he was from PDPU, I forgot his name. He created a portfolio website which looked like um, Ubuntu, and it got a lot of attention. I think he's at a very good place right now. It actually got the attention of Ubuntu itself. Like Ubuntu's Twitter account retweeted his tweet. He got a lot of traction just because he had a good portfolio website, and which it vouched for his front end development skills. So um, presentation goes a long way. If you've heard of this person called Arnav Jindal, he's a product manager at Scalar right now. His portfolio website is also amazing. Like it's a version of, like, you can, it's like a Mario game where like it's basically like a, a timeline of his projects and internships and everything. It's also worth checking out. At the same time, talk to different people, because you will need a lot of exposure. Like, you don't really want to miss out on opportunities. And there is nobody, like, because everything is so decentralized, there is no single place where you get everything. You should talk to different people, you should get feedback on your work, you should get a lot of exposure from different sources as much as possible, so that you are on your toes. Like, you just remember that you need one lucky opportunity. I know, like, it's not just luck, it's also your hard work. But at the same time, when you're talking about like, when the game is like this, you just need a very small opportunity, and it can come from anywhere. And, like, for example, I had a friend who did not even apply to Goldman Sachs, thinking that, like, large companies will not reply to so many people. And then the company decided, like, they have the policy that everyone gets the link of the first test at least. And so when everyone got the test link, he was regretting that why did he not apply. So please don't be that guy. And I think we are done. So that's all I had for um like, that's all I had to cover. I'll of course be taking questions, as many as you have, and then we can. So let's maybe go to Slido.
Yeah, so definitely, Yashraj, it was a very insightful session for all of us. And I personally got to know a lot of new stuff. So we are done with the session. We'll be having question and answer round. So anyone who wants to wait can wait for, we will be here for another 15 to 20 minutes. And others who don't have any questions may choose to leave.
Yep. If possible, please use Slido, so that I just have to look at, like, maybe it would be easier because we have two meet links now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Yashraj, we can also go through some of the questions we had in our registration form.
Yes. Let's go through that also.
So someone asked, how can a person from a non-circuitral branch get jobs in product-based companies?
So most companies are not, I cannot say most, but many companies are really okay with you having a BTech from any specialization. Otherwise, like, if you're talking about a large product-based company, like, you have to fulfill the criteria. Like, if they say we want a BTech from circuitry branch, I don't really think there is anything you can do. Uh, to get in. But yeah, like if you're asking from the technical side of it, uh, like you have to do what everyone else does. Like you have to prove that you can be a potentially great software engineer. You have to brush up on your core computer science skills. Maybe do a binary in computer science if they allow you, or take electives at your place, or just prepare them yourself. Like prepare the key subjects, the six fundamental subjects, six or seven fundamentals of programming, object-oriented programming, databases, data structures, operating systems, networks. I think this is pretty much companies ask. Like they are not going to ask you fancy things like what is a Turing machine. Like they are not going to ask you computation theory or compiler design or anything like that. Most companies will ask you something from these five six subjects because they are universal. Like they are taught in every CS curriculum in India. So this is what you're going to get your questions from.
Right. So we had another question. So what are the things that we need to develop in us so that we can outshine among those thousands of candidates waiting like us to get placed in off-campus placement, and how to face and overcome rejections? We are generally surrounded with negative fear of losing and lag behind. How can we overcome this fear?
So the answer to the first question was effectively the entire session.
Yeah.
But like rejection, I don't know, man. Like you have to not expect too much and try to get a job as early as possible. It can be a job which is not as up to your expectation, but try to get an offer as early as possible so that you don't have the fear of being left out with no job. Like as long as you have a safety net, तुम्हें रात को अच्छी नींद आएगी. So
Right.
just try to get that as early as possible. Then you can aim higher. Obviously, like people will aim higher. So I think that's the best you can do, my friend. Like I don't really know if there is any other way.
Right, right. So another person asked, what does a company expect from a fresher? I think most of it was covered in the session.
Yes, I
Uh,
think yes. So it really depends, man. Again, like what they ask is reflective of what they expect. But sometimes a lot of things are implicitly assumed. Like if you go to an internship, they're not going to, or a job, they're not going to teach you how to use Git. You should be familiar with some basics of the software engineering life cycle also. You should know how version control works. You should know how to use an IDE properly. ऐसे थोड़ा थोड़ा बेसिक्स तो मालूम हो तो अच्छी बात है. और बाकी और core fundamentals, like an ability to learn everything else which is there maybe can also be a point, that how like you should know how to learn new things fast, and that is also something, it's also a skill which you can develop by doing more projects, by doing more open source things like that.
right. Learning ability is one of the major factors that companies look out for.
Yes.
So yeah. So another question we had was some tips for managing CGPA and gaining skills.
um so I am actually writing an article right now on how to uh, get a very strong score, because a lot of my junior friends have asked me for it. uh, Bottom line is that you have to like you have to decide on the kind of score you want to maintain, and then you have to figure out what is the kind of work that is required to maintain that, and try to ensure that you time box that. Like you can decide, for example, that after classes in a week I will devote at most 10 hours to my academic work, and 10 or 15 hours, I don't know what the class timings are, to non-academic work. Non-academic as in like prepare for do side projects, do DSAs, things like that. And you strictly stick to that time boxing so that your non-academic part does not miss. Maybe you can take a break during exams or something like that, but you that is the best. Like if you are really okay, if you don't really believe in your college education, I don't know which college you're from, you can just decide that I want a 7, and if you know that you get it 2 weeks padhai se, so just dedicate 2 weeks of your life to preparing for your exams, and utilize the rest of your time to as much as possible to um, do well in the other aspects. So that is something you can do. Baki, if you really want a great CGPA, then like that again is a topic of a separate. It's again a topic of a separate talk. But the bottom line is, at most of the places, is to like I'm saying this because I think I have a good CGPA. It's around 9.8 out of 10, and it's a like my place is not a really not a place where you can score very easily. So what really works for me is that whatever the professor teaches, try to be very sound and clear at that. Like, don't mug it up. Be very clear with that. Get your queries resolved. Do the assignments religiously. Find very good project partners and study partners, and do previous year papers. Like, very very simple advice. I know, like very very trivial, but that is really what works. And also ensure that the professor knows you, because I'm not saying like मक्खन लगाने वाली बात नहीं कर रहा, but like if some, like at least for many colleges, what I've seen is if they want to give you the full grade, like A plus grade or whatever is the highest grade, uh, a lot of educations are like institutes are not very free with that. Like if the candidate is really exceptional, then only they get the highest grade. So the professor will know you are exceptional only if they know you, like you are very active in their class or something like that. So just try to keep that in mind.
Right, right. And last question, which a couple of people asked, was on-campus versus off-campus placements. Some of the pros and cons which you can highlight about them.
Okay, that was the beginning part of the session. Like, the bottom line is very simple. Like, in on-campus, companies coming to you, they have a budget, they know how many people to hire. In off-campus, everything is very very abstract. Like, they don't. It's typically the leftover places most of the times, and you have to go to the companies. There is a very large application pool, and a lot of times companies don't know what to do with it. So that is where the game changes, and that is why off-campus is very difficult, like more difficult as compared to on-campus.
Right, right. So I think we have covered most of the questions we had on our registration form. So now we can move forward with the questions people are having on Slido.
Sure, we can do that. So this one has a lot of likes. Like, wanted to know how to approach technical recruiters on LinkedIn, how to polish my development skills. Uh, how to approach technical recruiters on LinkedIn. That book is a great resource. And if you don't get reply, after one day you can ask for a follow up. If it does not really work out, you can ask for feedback. What really works is you craft a very short and sweet message um, which has your objective listed to the point, and it should also mention that why should they invest your time in you. So in very very brief words, you have to summarize what is it that you have in your profile which stands out. And unless you have that, you should not probably reach out to recruiters, because they don't really have the time. Like, the recruiters from very good companies, they receive a lot of attention on LinkedIn. So unless you stand out, you're not going to hear back. So that answers that part. How do you polish my development skills for applying in off-campus internships? Uh, I think the best way to develop dev skills is to do internships at good places. Um, Unfortunately, there is probably only a level you can reach to while working on small dummy projects at the side, because like you have a well, most resources for freshers on the internet for development are at very basic level. Like, you will be making Instagram clone by following some tutorial, which is there in thousands of other resumes already. So that is not very helpful a lot of time. Also, you don't really learn a lot of things. So I learned the most in internships. You can also learn through open source, or you can learn through good company. If you have friends who are having good skills and you are trying to build an ambitious project, you can also build a dev skill through some relevant course projects. In some core courses, you can try to build very aspirational projects, which are which also require you to which require you to write a lot of code basically. So that is also something which I have done. Like, most of my resume projects are my course projects actually, because in pretty much every course we're required to do a project. So that is where I learned a lot of dev skills. Polishing resume again is a topic of a separate session in itself. What really works in general is like being very crisp, having a single column, two column, very neat template which is nicely readable, being to the point, using quantitative metrics to describe um, your achievements, and highlighting the important stuff, like giving the recruiter what they want directly, is probably the bottom line of having a very polished resume. How do you? Okay, this probably means okay. How to get updated with opportunities was the agenda of the session, I guess. Uh, um, how non-circuital students, we discuss this. As a first year student, when should I start DSA? The when you feel that you're reasonably comfortable with basic programming, you can start with at least arrays and strings questions. You can start, and then you can like a lot of like we started. We as in me and my some of my friends started competitive programming in first year because our seniors that had done a workshop to help us out with that, to teach us, and we found it interesting. It was a good use of our time because we realized that our programming assignments are not really testing a lot of our implementation skills. So we just started off. Um, Roadmap for first year rates. I think your agenda has to be to get your fundamentals clear. You should be very very comfortable with implementation, and if you have time, learn some data structures. I think that is pretty much all you can do. Like if you're really really interested, maybe do some development, whatever you find interesting, some small toy projects maybe, just to see what interests you, and also to maybe yeah, just to get a taste of what development is like. I really wanted to learn Python. I don't know why, in my first year, so I did. And I also wanted to see, like, I had read about Django from some popular guy on Quora. So I learned Django in my first year and I really enjoyed it. So it just helped me get a taste of what development is. And consequently, um, getting further on it, I got my second year internship, which was mostly based on Django. So it paid off in a way. What is the right time to participate in hackathons? Once you have sufficient comfort with a language, like actually there is no like, if you're really ready to accept any result that comes, you once you know some language, you can just jump in. Like nobody really stops you, and I think you should go, like because you will learn a lot from the experience of going to a hackathon itself. Back if you're talking about winning or having a chance at winning, what you need some proficiency. You need a team which is proficient in a tech stack, basically. Anything like some backend language, some front end language, or some like yeah, like if you're planning to build a mobile application, someone who's skilled at that. Like once you have a tech stack ready, reasonably ready, you are pretty much good to go. Is projects greater than competitive programming? I probably competitive programmers have a much larger advantage against some projects because CP can be validated. It helps you directly and indirectly in tests. Your ratings speak for you. Projects is a very subjective thing, so people have to specifically evaluate how good you are. So, and not a lot of companies have that time. So in general, competitive programming greater than projects as far as getting a job is concerned. After that, I am not experienced, but probably projects will help you. Like at least I felt that my projects helped me a lot in my internship, more than competitive programming did. My opinion. Take it with a pinch of salt, but I think that is what it is. Any suggestions for people interested in fintech? I'm not the best person to answer, but probably if you if you say interested in fintech means working at a fintech company, maybe jot down the kind of companies you're interested in working at. Is it Are you talking about the fintech startup like Razorpay? Are you talking about giants like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs? Figure out what they want. Like, are you looking for engineering roles? Are you looking for quantitative roles? Are you looking for like some other role? Like, just look at what that role expects from you and prepare for that. Maybe talk to people who are in those roles. Like, how did they get in? And that should maybe give you some answers for yourself. Can I have the link of this PDP, please? It will be a lot helpful. Sure, I can just share it to the organizers, and I have already given them the PDF, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I have the
Maybe
PDF share. Yeah,
please circulate that.
sure. Yeah.
So that is done. This is done. Most hackathons are team based. Some hackathons are solo, but hackathons are actually fun with teams. And it's actually very difficult for someone to build a prototype in 2 days. It's a short hackathon, but you can just stick with the rules. My CG was 9.8 on 10, but it doesn't really matter as much as we think it does. It's mostly a cutoff, but I just like to keep my score up, so I work for it. What is the right time to get really active on LinkedIn? It's right from your first year, as early as possible, because like it will take some time for you to follow the right people, build your profile, things like that. So as early as you can. Hi there. Would you suggest choosing DevOps as a career? I don't have personal experience with DevOps, but I have seen that people are getting paid really well because people say that there is a shortage of DevOps, infrastructure, cloud native engineers in the market. So that is why people are getting very good jobs. But that is all I can say, because I've not experienced it firsthand. But people say it's a great career and pays really well. There is a lot of less competition in DevOps because those specialized skills are not really with everyone, and suddenly increased number of companies are really moving to cloud native solutions and things like that. So if you know some DevOps, you probably will have a well paid career at least. That is so definitely sure. At least for the time being. I don't really know how. Like, probably this is not the best question for me to answer. Hello, bro. Is CP necessary? As you you will see people who have not touched CP getting into very amazing companies. So definitely it's not necessary, but it helps you a lot. What is the case again? It's not necessary, neither is necessary. People have, I know people who are very good competitive programmers. They don't even have proper projects. They are in good companies. I know the exact opposite end of the spectrum, where people have not touched competitive programming, but they have done GSOC. They have done good open source contributions in other programs by themselves. They are also at amazing companies. So you choose your way. Proper roadmap for beginners. Get your fundamentals sorted. Then start with some DSA. Do some, if you have some time and interest, do some projects on the side. Just look at open source if it interests you. If you have a lot of time, um, then it depends on what kind of companies you are interested in. Just look at what they ask for. You should not, I'm not like, you should prepare for yourself from the first day. Like you should start learning programming and things like that without like your aim is not just to get a job, right? Your aim is to get become a good engineer. So that starts from day one. And try to, maybe what really helps is that try to build yourself in a way that you don't really have to prepare separately for placements. Like probably DSA etc is something you have to brush up, because that wears off. Like active practice helps. Baki uske alawa, you should be very good with your fundamentals, and trying to build a, like trying to learn will naturally give you a good profile. Like I don't remember formally preparing for placements except for DSA, because that should not be the case in my opinion. Like you're not preparing for a for an interview. You're preparing for life. Like you also have a life after a job, and you have to excel at that. Like it's not like the competition ends here, or learning ends here. So except for DSA, I think you should try to learn as much, like the rest of it, the other subjects. How to get good projects for resume? What really worked for me was that we spend a lot of time thinking about what is it that you want to build. Like if you find something, like your goal is to find something which stands out, like it looks like it's some genuine work, which probably will not be there on a lot of resumes, because your goal is to stand out. And then you should think of something is which has reasonable technical depth in an area where you want to market yourself. So if you're building a full stack project, you should try to build a large system with and you should try to get all the components covered as if you are doing a production level project. So maybe you can have a proper API documentation. You can have a proper deployment. You can use good practices. Uh, you can also experiment with things which, like, you might find in a production environment. Like you can try building a caching layer if possible. So like this probably is slightly ambitious, but like so, or you can build something which is supposed to be used by people. So you find a problem, you try to solve that problem, and you create a solution for that, and you deploy it somewhere. You let people use it, and then you work on feedback. So like working prototypes will get a major edge over some toy projects. So that is how you get good ones. CGPA criteria for non-secret, like it really depends, man, on the company, as we discussed. Sir, elaborate more on competitive program. Please don't call me sir, guys. Like I'm probably your age. Competitive program on sites like CodeChef, Geeks for Geeks. CodeChef is for competitive programming. The rest are not. Um, CodeChef is the most famous Indian competitive programming platform. Um, and there is code forces, add code, things like that. You can just explore and go on whatever works for you. Binary search is very interesting for the reason we discussed. and Geeks or Geeks has a good collection of questions as well. How good are opportunities in off campus as compared to on campus? It depends. Like some very good companies like Disha I think hires only off campus for full time roles, so you will not find it on campus. At the same time, a lot of companies pay less on off campus opportunity as compared to on campus opportunity. So there's a trade off. But so like there are some companies which only hire off campus. At the same time, there are some companies which only on campus. There is a differential pay sometimes. So it depends. DSA required on scale of it depends on the company, bro. As we discussed, like some companies ask very good questions, some companies ask simple questions. Um, so if you are just concerned for the sake of learning the technology, you can just follow tech blogs and magazines maybe. Baki to like being active on LinkedIn again is something which gives you an advantage here. Uh, okay, I think this is the last question which we can take. Which language should I learn first if I have no prior like pick something standard which like C or Java or Python. I would recommend C or Java, probably C, because it's like Java will probably force a lot of object-oriented concepts, and Python is very simple. So if you switch, you'll find it hard. So I think C is probably the recommendation. But it doesn't really matter as much as you think it does.
Okay, so Yashraj, I feel we are done with most of the questions.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Yashraj, for such an insightful session. I hope most of the people would have learned a lot and will definitely try to apply at least some of the tricks and tips you have shared with them.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ankit and team, for having me. It was a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yashraj, and sorry for the chaos happened in the start of the session. We hope to fix that as soon as possible.
No worries at all. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yashraj. So thank you so much, everyone, for this attending the session.
Thank you, sir.